As long as the Pro Tour is here, I probably will be with the Pro Tour. So I could envision being a joint event,
Sure.
a joint NT Pro Tour event, which we've talked about.
Hey guys, Johnny Disc Golf here, the 2019 Ledgestone Insurance Open, and I am joined by the tournament director and also the tournament director of Worlds, Mr. Nate Heinold. How you doing?
I'm tired.
I can imagine this is the final hours of cleanup even after the tournament. So first of all, appreciate all your hard work. I know intimately how much work it is to run an event. You're running 2 this year. Why would you have signed up for that?
I just didn't want to go a year, without running Ledgestone, to be honest. So I wanted the Yams to be able to still enjoy playing the tournament, and that's the main reason why. It's not because I wanted to work more, but because of that reason.
Well, and we all appreciate you for it. I know a lot of folks enjoy traveling out here, and especially the guys who aren't maybe at the very top because of how far it pays out, how deep it pays out. Is that a priority for you?
Yeah, on the women, I think we paid out 2/3 of the field.
Yeah, 65.
We did not do that with the men. It was 45, 46%. So, I think 82 people cashed on the open side, which, for a large event, usually you have to shoot 10, 15 if you only have 80 players. Here you can shoot 985, 990 and still cash.
Yeah, that's great. I know, the first person that pops to my mind is Sias Elmore. He's always traveled out here from California even for that exact same reason. You mentioned that you paid out more on the FPO side. What was the thought process there?
Just to drive more players. Honestly, this tournament was record participation for FPO amongst DGPT or NT events. And so I think that's why. Just paying that deep, paying whatever it was, 28 people, whatever it was, I think that is a testament to just trying to get more of them to stay on tour and keep playing.
I'm honestly, I'm sure that does play into effect. We see more regional pros out at this event, I think, than any other one, so kudos. We are standing in front of the water tower, which is maybe the staple visual part of this course. What's it been like designing a course on this piece of property? It's pretty big.
Yeah, it's big, but I've used every inch of it for the course, basically. We have a permanent course on the property, which most people don't know about, beyond hole, 6 in that area. But really, it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. I enjoy, it's been 5 years since I had the idea to put a course here. This is not the first time a disc golf tournament has been played here. Dana Vici hosted a 27-hole layout maybe 10 years ago on the permanent course plus 9 holes here. And so I didn't even remember that when I had the idea to do this, but it really is, I enjoy it a lot.
Sure. I actually glad that you mentioned Eureka Permanent, because honestly, for my skill level, I have more fun on that course. There's a lot of water carry shots that I have no interest in throwing. Do you run events ever over there? Do the Amps play that? Does anyone play that course?
We usually play it for Ledgestone. We did not play it this year. I wanted to cut down the amount of courses so we could have less courses to maintain, meaning higher quality courses. So that's a fun course. It's just not in our top 6 that we want to use. Sure. And having 2 courses at the same time does condense parking. We had 400 to 500 cars in the park today, and so it couldn't take a lot more. We had subdivisions full of cars, and so it was a lot.
Yeah, it was, and it was a lot, and I can even see the staff continue to working. How big was your staff out here this weekend?
Every course had an assistant and a director, so there's 12 plus another 12, so probably 25 in terms of and several of them are here for 10 days.
Wow, that's commitment. They've rallied, I'm sure. You're running Worlds, and you just ran Ledgestone. Ledgestone is historically the biggest pro purse across the country. This year, I don't know if it has that title or doesn't, but objectively, the payouts are lower. And I'd imagine, as bugs are flying around us, that's because we're funneling funds towards Worlds. Is that correct?
I wanted to make sure that Worlds had a bigger payout than Ledgestone, and so Worlds this year will have $60,000 of added cash, which is the second most ever for an event. So I just didn't want. So Ledgestone is still a $77,000 payout between the pro divisions, but I wanted Worlds to be the marquee event of the year and the marquee event in this town as well. So, and one more thing I'll say is that almost every single staff member, in fact, I think every single one will be here in 7 weeks or in 6 weeks.
Really? That's commitment to the cause. Love it. Speaking of Worlds, we're switching to, or not switching, but we're playing 2 courses, kind of like what we did in years past at Ledgestone. We're playing Northwoods, but a revamped Northwoods. Were you behind that, or if not, who was kind of the brainchild there?
Yeah, when I was bidding on Worlds, I had the idea to do a gold layout. The day after I got the bid, I met with the Park District and the original designer of Northwood and the guy who designed Westwood Park, and I gave them my pitch, and they looked at me and I said, I want to combine these holes, I want to eliminate these holes, I want to do some long tees, eliminate those holes, and bam, and they go, well, you have 13 holes. I said, yeah, I want to build 5 more holes in the woods, and I want a 1,000-foot par 5, and we made it happen.
Yeah, how was that working with the city? I know, I mean, at least for me in San Francisco, we don't quite have that, like, just, you can't just cut into the woods. How's that been out here?
They let us do whatever we want. So, and we had to cut a lot. But we really, it's a beautiful property.
Yeah.
We made it really nice, and it's the opposite of Eureka. Very tight, but very fair. The fairways, there's no luck involved at Northwood at all.
I agree. And was that intentional? Like, because this is, for all intents and purposes, pretty open course. Was it intentional to make like a woods complement?
Yeah, I played Smuggler's Notch last year for Worlds, and not that, I mean, I was already well on the way to my, the Northwood layout. But all along I wanted an open course and a wooded course. And then for the FPO, they're doing the same thing. They're playing Sunset, open course, and they're playing Northwood.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that the FPO are going to be at Sunset and Northwood. The same thing here, right? They were at Sunset while all the MPO was at Eureka. Was that, first of all, what's the mindset there?
I could try to put some short tees at Eureka to have them out here. But I just don't think it's a suitable course for most of the FPO players. I think Cage and Pat and other, Paige Bajurkas, and there's plenty of women who could do it. The bottom line is that when the wind whips up, it's not fun for the men. I think that most of the women would hate me if I put them out, or even on short tees. And so I think Sunset is a very challenging course, but more suitable for them, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, we see it in the scores. We see that the players are able to shoot those 7, 8, 9, 10 downs rather than, thinking of Beaver State Fling, where it's like a struggle to stay even par. Is that, was that the mindset, like just to allow them to get birds?
Not necessarily, but Northwood will take all that away. Even for the women, it will be incredibly challenging to shoot under par. In fact, I would be surprised if any of them shoot under par, any of the rounds. I mean, it's very, very challenging. The course par is fair for them, but if I had to guess, FPO, the winning score is going to be 15 to 20 under.
Sure. You just said they're going to take away all their bogeys. Are they playing the long layout, or is there a shortened layout for the FPO?
They're playing a white layout, but it's still super challenging.
It really is.
It's still a par 64, I think, and it's almost 8,000 feet. And the rough is, I mean, my strategy is like a U.S. Open of ball golf, to where the fairways are narrow, the rough gets worse as you get in, and really that's what it is there.
It does, yeah, it's true. We're going to be at Northwoods. It's kind of like the Fort and Mulligans thing in Utah. Is that going to be a trend that we see, do you think? Like one wooded, one open for Worlds?
I think it's a good idea. Whether or not a venue or a town can do that every time in terms of a great open course and a great wooded course. There are a lot of great wooded courses. There are not a lot of great open courses. So that is really challenging. If Eureka didn't have ropes, it would be super boring, So I think that is, I think of a course like Toboggan, which I think is a great course. That's a good open course, So this is, it's challenging, but I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious how that process went, attaining Worlds. So you were elected part of the board of directors for the PDGA. Was that helpful in getting Worlds here, or was that a completely separate thing?
I mean, there were only 2 bids that year, and one of them was in Kansas, and it wasn't in Peoria.
Wow.
And so, you can just, I don't even remember if it was Topeka or what it was, but really there was, I hate to say it, but there was no choice for the PDGA but to grant it to me. So I actually bid on Combined Worlds.
Oh, really?
And they said, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
And they asked me to do this, and that worked out fine.
Why do you think that was, that there's only two and only one legitimate bid? How come?
Pro Worlds is not a good money situation unless you have a resort or you control the lodging side of it. The pros don't spend money on discs.
No.
You're not going to have a ton of vendors at Pro Worlds. You're not going to have all the same things that 930 people plus 700 AMs bring to an event. So that's really why, in my opinion.
Okay, well that's fair. How you been liking it being on the board of directors? I mean, do you feel like you actually have a say and a hand in how these things go, or is it more of like a bigger than you circumstance?
Yeah, I've pushed a lot of directives that we've passed. We hired Des Redding as the youth and education coordinator. And my first summit, I said we have to hire somebody. I gave him a proposal. It took a year, and we did that. And I pushed for the changes to our World Championship events, for AM Worlds to split up into MA1, FA1, and the Masters changes. That was my concept. I've pushed for other things that we've passed with the Pro Tour to to continue to build that relationship. So I have been very involved in high-level stuff.
Sure. Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that Pro Tour thing because I'm curious. Ledgestone, it has such a brand outside of it's got a big brand at this point. People recognize it. How married to the Pro Tour is Ledgestone at this point?
I mean, Steve and I are very close. We have a good working relationship, but Ledgestone is its own tournament. So, I certainly appreciate the Pro Tour, and they do a lot for me. I appreciate the PDGA as well. So it is an awkward situation on the outskirts. People think it's awkward. It's not awkward to me. Everybody works well together. So it works out great.
Yeah, I was going to say, because it has been a national tour in the past, and then it became a Pro Tour. We're in interesting times where tournaments are like considering what tour they're going to be a part of. Is that something you'd ever look forward to in the past, like, just seeing what the best offers were?
As long as the Pro Tour is here, I probably will be with the Pro Tour. So I could envision being a joint event, a joint NT Pro Tour event, which we've talked about. And so I think that would be a great idea.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, we all need to work together. We're growing, but at the same time, we need to realize that we still the divisions are probably not helpful in this situation. Paul McBeth, Discraft, biggest storyline ever?
I would say it's like LeBron going to Miami. In terms of a lot of people that I know when I started, when I knew that it was a done deal, I kind of told a few people, I'm kidding, Paul, but oh no, he would never do that. Never, ever, 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 ever. And the bottom line is that, Discraft offered something that was much more valuable, and not just money. They offered a much more, valuable proposition from everything, from branding and having his own line of discs that, Innova just wasn't willing to do, it sounds like.
Yeah, were you involved with that, on the back end?
I've been recruiting Paul since the day that I met him, to be honest. I invited him and Nate Sexton to stay at my house on their RV back in 2015, probably, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think I joked about it then. In 2016, I think Bob and I put a couple stickers on his RV. In 2017, we made some jokes about it. And then after the 2018 Ledgestone, he and I started talking about it more seriously. And I told Bob, I said, I think it's serious. Yeah. And I wasn't involved in the day-to-day discussions, but I had several conversations with Paul and his agent, and, but Bob and Mike did, 98% of the work. Okay. If I started the conversation, that's all I can take credit for.
Well, the Discraft world thanks you, but the question is, and I'm assuming the answer is great, but how's Discraft liking this new partnership?
I mean, they couldn't be happier. So if you're looking at just sales of not just the McBeth disc, but all of their discs have just skyrocketed. For my Ledgestone discs, we did a couple special forces this year, and they sold out almost immediately just because Paul was throwing it, on a couple videos. And all of our disc sales have just been done very well this year, and Discraft's done very well this year.
Yeah. Question, I'm curious, I've seen a few people online ask the question of or post a picture of the back sheet of the caddy book, right? It has a special message from you and the tournament staff as a whole. Curious, as a board of director, like, where do you feel the boundary between, the whole separation of church and state thing relative to professional disc golf? Yeah,
I own the event, not the PDGA and not the Pro Tour. And so, the PDGA has no problem with me putting that on the back of my caddy guide. I did not ask them for permission to do that. But when it came up last year, I talked to Joe specifically, and he had no qualms with it. Once again, it's my event. If I was when I host Worlds here, that won't show up in the back of that caddy guide. I don't own that event. I really can't do that, and I wouldn't do that. But for my own event, I'm not asking them to come along with my beliefs. Sure. I'm just telling them that this is what I believe, and I'd be happy to talk to them, because that's what I believe. And I really am passionate about not just disc golf, but having people, just listen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I appreciate your time, and that's why I think I have this platform, is so that everyone can listen, right? It's part of it. Where do you stand on at being from San Francisco?
Sure.
San Francisco Open, you probably know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I do.
Our title sponsor, ABX Absolute Extracts, do you find that that's a similar avenue, like where it's like they own the tournament, they have the right to do that type of deal?
That came to a vote with the board of directors, and I voted to go along with that sponsorship.
Thank you.
And it's not because I agree or disagree. It's more because we don't have a policy to mandate that at an 8-tier event.
Sure.
We have a sponsorship policy for majors and NTs, and if an event that was hosting a major wanted to have ABX sponsor it, I would have voted no because our policy says that. And so until we have a policy that says otherwise, I was fine to support that.
Oh, great. And we appreciate you, being a local, being a player, and being as part of the tournament staff. It was a big deal with us. Was it going to pass? And so I appreciate your effort in that, letting it pass, and I think is going to pay huge dividends in the long run. When we're talking about getting outside money into the
Sure.
sport, it's one of the biggest, one of the biggest things I hear, and I feel is important. You feel the same way?
Yeah, I personally would not use them as a sponsor at my event or a company that sold those products. Once again, not because I am saying any political position on it. It's more of just I don't need it, first of all. In fact,
Sure.
I have great support from Discraft. I don't know that if they would or wouldn't be offended, but I think they would take the same position that I would to say, yeah, that's not a bad idea, but it could, you already have a really good tournament. I don't really need to muddy the waters anymore.
Sure.
With Sean's tournament, a new tournament, it certainly made sense for him.
Yeah, no, very true. All great points. As the tournament's wrapping up, is there anything that you would like to say to any of the fans, any of the people out there who have been watching coverage over the last, I think 2015 is even the first year I started watching it. Anything you'd like to say to the fans at home, about Ledgestone, about anything?
Yeah, I would just say that the goal that I have with Eureka, is just to have a true but super challenging test. And that's what I did with Northwood. I don't have the same latitude to have the sunset be under my purview, but I give recommendations. We had a long pin added there, so that's why that's my philosophy, is to make it super challenging. I don't like birdie fests, and so I like seeing players be tested.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, I thank you so much for your time, Nate. I really appreciate it. It was a pleasure having you on the program. Can't wait to be back in is it 8 to 10 weeks, something like that?
No, the course is officially tore down right now.
Really?
But in August 2nd, we put it back up.
Oh my gosh, it's coming up so quickly, but I can't wait to get back. I'm going to be in the Northeast for a little bit, but I will be back August 2nd, like you said. For all of you guys at home, if you'd like coverage of all things disc golf until then, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hey guys, thanks for checking out that interview. For me, I am off to Masters Worlds up at Smuggler's Notch in Vermont, my single favorite disc golf getaway place. But until then, if you'd like to support me, check out patreon.com/johnnydiscgolf or hit me up any big tournament that I'm at. I'd love to say hey and how you doing.